Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing today? You're listening to 98.5 WNUW LP Aston. My name is Joe Tusio. I have a lot to get to today. I'm going to be continuing with my free agency division breakdown, going with the AFC East today. But before I do that, I got a couple quick things to get to. And the first big thing is, over the last couple days, I'm pretty sure many fans have been seeing that RG3 may not be a Washington Redskin next year. They might let him go. They might trade him. Regardless of what they do, there's going to be a lot of teams that have interest in him, especially considering there are a lot of teams out there that could use a quarterback at this time. Now, the big question is, do teams view him still as a starting quarterback right now, or is he a guy that is going to go into next year as a backup or a guy that has to compete for his job? And I, for one, going into that 2012 draft, I was an RG3 fan. I was one of those fans that actually thought, career-wise, him and Andrew Luck were going to be pretty close. Andrew Luck, of course, was assumed for that year, and even in his junior year, was going to be the number one pick, regardless of who had that pick. He was going to be the number one guy taken in that draft. But I was one of those guys that actually thought RG3 was going to be the number two pick and was going to be the guy, career-wise, was going to be pretty close to Andrew Luck. And in some form, I actually liked his skill set better than Andrew Luck because of his speed and just the way that he played. And in his rookie year, it seemed that way. RG3 was lighting up the league. He put the Redskins back on top, went into the playoffs, and then unfortunately suffered a season-ending injury, and since then really hasn't been the quarterback that the Redskins thought they had when they drafted him in that 2012 draft. Now that Kirk Cousins has taken over that job, took the Redskins back to the playoffs, assuming he's going to be the quarterback there long-term, assuming they strike a deal in this offseason, RG3 is probably going to look to find a new home soon. Is Philly one of those teams? Because I'm assuming there are going to be quite a lot of teams that look at him. Dallas might look at him. Romo, again, was hurt. Didn't play a lot this year at all. They didn't have a good year. Maybe they look at him as being the guy that, when Romo is done, RG3 can step in. Houston might be a team that looks at him. They went to the playoffs with three separate with just a quarterback group that is a shocker that they could get them to the playoffs. Maybe they look at RG3. Maybe he's a guy that can lead them. Maybe there's some other team. Maybe the Rams look at him. The team that in that 2012 draft traded out with the Redskins, acquired all those first-round picks. Maybe they look at him, assuming Nick Foles maybe isn't the guy that they thought he was going to be. There's a lot of teams that can look at him. Philly, maybe they look at him. Maybe Sam Bradford isn't their guy. Or maybe they like Bradford, but maybe they don't see him as being a guy that is going to be signed there long term. Maybe he's a guy that they just look at as a stopgap guy that they can sign for 1 or 2 years, and maybe RG3 can fight for that spot. The way that Kirk Cousins did this year. Maybe he comes into this team on a 1 or 2 year deal, and they somehow work him into being the starting quarterback of this team. And wherever he goes, I think the main thing, at least from my perspective, the way that I look at it, is that I think he has to go to a team that has a set defense and a running game. Because if you put him out there with no offensive line and no running game and expect him to run all around the field and make plays with his feet and make those throws, it is not going to happen. The injury that he's sustained to his knee and to his leg, that is something that a coach has to go to him and say, hey, you can't run the ball like you once did. You're going to have to stand there and make those throws. And they're going to have to help him. He doesn't throw the ball as good as he should. He needs to be on a team with a coaching staff that can help mold him. Maybe Doug Peterson is that guy. I have no clue. all of us are going into this year blind at some point because we don't know what this coach and what this staff can do. And maybe RG3 does come in here. Maybe they run the ball effectively, 30 plus times a game. And maybe they can shut down teams and make an offense where RG3 doesn't have to make every play by himself. But if they do bring him in, if they want him to be their guy, or if they want him to at least compete for a starting job here, he needs weapons around him. Wide receiving, he needs help. They got some pretty good guys right now. Matthews is a great wide receiver. Aguilar showed some pretty good plays. He needs to mature and develop the skill set that he knows best by using his speed. He's not going to be a guy that's going to burn you down the field every play, but he needs to adjust to the playing in the league now. And they need maybe another guy on the outside. Maybe they address that in free agency. Maybe they draft a guy. But can RG3 handle it here? Can he handle the media and the fan base here? I don't know about that. If they bring him in, let's say they bring him in and they bring Bradford back, and Bradford going into game 2 doesn't look that good. RG3 is going to get his name called by fans. Fans are going to want him to take that spot. Now, if the Eagles want if the Eagles want the media to look at them more, at least this year, maybe RG3 brings that. Maybe RG3 just needs to go to a new team. But regardless of where he goes, I think the coaching staff that is on the team that he goes to is going to be the number one important thing, besides the scheme that they run. Because I think he can throw a good ball. He can throw the ball pretty far. He's got pretty good arm strength, and he's still young. He's not a 35-year-old guy that, we're going to give it one last try. Let's just see what happens if we throw him in there for 2 or 3 years. The guy still has a lot of years. But he cannot continue to try to make plays with his feet every single play. So if they can help him throw the ball effectively and accurately, and the decision-making is improved this this year, maybe he can become a pocket quarterback. Because I think he has the skills to make those plays. But it's all going to depend on the coaching staff that is put around him and the scheme that is put around him. Maybe he goes to San Fran. Maybe Chip likes him. Maybe they don't go with Kaepernick. Maybe they take a chance on RG3. And he becomes a star there. But it's going to be interesting to see where RG3 lands, especially if he lands here. That is another storyline to follow this offseason. Now, as most NFL fans or football fans know, the NFL Combine is quickly approaching us in the next few days. And this is one of my favorite times of year because you get to see who teams look at, who teams like in terms of maybe a first-round pick or a second-round pick or a third-round pick. And the draft the Combine can help a person's draft stock, can hurt a person's draft stock. And there are going to be a lot of guys in this Combine, in this draft, that are going to just put up crazy, 40-yard dash times, broad jumps, that are going to do the drills very well, that are going to help themselves, or they might hurt themselves. Not, actually get hurt, but hurt their draft stock. And there's just a couple guys that I'm going to really look at because there are some guys that teams really like, but there are going to be some question marks that they have to help solve. Shawn Oakman, to me, is my number one guy. This was a guy that I've loved. Baylor has had a pretty good defense the last 2 or 3 years. Shawn Oakman is one of those guys that has amazing size. You can't miss him. I think there are memes about this guy. I mean, the guy is unreal. Unreal size, unreal skill set, but he does not consistently make plays. And that's the thing that I think people are afraid of. Because if you put his skill set, if teams were solely to draft a guy because of his size, Oakman would be probably the number one pick. Because as a defensive end, it's 6'7", 280 plus pounds. The guy's built to be a monster. Is built to be a Pro Bowl player. But he doesn't consistently make plays. And he needs to develop the skill set that he knows best. And in the Senior Bowl, he was making a couple good plays. But he wasn't doing it the entire time. I think that's what the Combine might help. Maybe if he runs a great 40-yard dash time or runs the cone drills well. And if his interview goes well, maybe teams that have him in a 4th round might bump him up to a late 3rd round. Or maybe a team with a 2nd round pick that doesn't have that many needs takes a risk on a guy like this. Shayne Oakman to me is definitely going to be one of the guys that I will watch. Noah Spence is another guy. A guy that went to Ohio State. There was some off the field stuff. He transferred to Eastern Kentucky. And again, is another, the guy at the Senior Bowl was arguably the best pass rusher in that game. And he's a guy that gets to the quarterback consistently. And he's a guy that could play in different schemes. He's kind of like a Khalil Mack. And I don't know if he's going to be Khalil Mack in terms of how he plays in this league, but he's built like him and he could play in it. He could play a 4-3 outside linebacker. He could play a 4-3 end. He's got great speed. He's got great strength for being 6'3", 240 plus pounds. The off-the-field stuff might scare folks. And maybe if the interview process helps him, maybe he goes from being a, guy taken from 25 to 30 to maybe going in the top 10. Because his combine stats are going to be great. And there are guys that in the combine that have gone from maybe being a guy that might go in the late 1st, early 2nd round to being a 1st round pick. Dontari Poe was one of those guys. Body, he was huge, and he ran an amazing 40-yard dash. He's bigger than me, and he probably would run faster than me in a 40-yard dash. The guy is unreal. And right now, he's a great defensive lineman for the Chiefs. And they're probably glad that they went to the Combine and saw him and saw him run that 40-yard dash in that time and show the skill set that he has. But Noah Spence, like Shayne Oakman, is a guy that teams might have questions about him, that maybe he can help answer them for him. Jalen Smith is another guy. Now, this was a guy that's going to be a 1st-round pick regardless. He's probably going to be one of the first linebackers taken. There's going to be 3 inside linebackers taken in this 1st round, which doesn't happen quite often at this point. But he got hurt towards the end of the year. People don't know how his knee and his leg is going to hold up. But I surely would take him because he's going to be a great inside linebacker and has the skills to do it. And it was coming out of high school, one of the highly sought-after young guys, and he's played great at Notre Dame for the past 3 or 4 years. And you got a couple secondary players in William Jackson III, Vernon Hargreaves, and Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey, of course, out of the 3 is going to probably be the highest guy taken. Who's considered a cornerback, but something he's going to be a safety. I like him both. I think he can play great at either spot. Safety might be better for him because I think he's played there longer. But he played cornerback, I believe, this year at Florida State. Again, great size, 6'1", 6'2", 200 pounds. Is going to be that tall, lengthy guy that can read plays very well. But he is not Vernon Hargreaves. Vernon Hargreaves is probably going to be the best pure cornerback in terms of skill set out of this draft. Now, if you put Vernon Hargreaves' skill set with, let's say, Jalen Ramsey's size, would easily be the best cornerback in this draft. But Vernon Hargreaves, the thing that people are going to be scared of is his size. He's not 6 foot. He's not 6'1". He's probably approximately 5'10", 5'11", maybe. But regardless of what his size is, the guy is an unreal talent. Can play man, can play zone. The guy can play in any scheme, can play in the slot, can play outside. He's going to go up against the number one wideout, and his confidence is there where he will go against the number one wideout and make plays. And can go anywhere from, pick number 8 to pick number 18. He might go anywhere in this draft, and the combine might help that. William Jackson III is, again, a cornerback that's got great size that was probably going to be a borderline. Going into this year, he was probably going to be a second, maybe a third-round pick. He might jump into the first round. Got great size, plays really good man. I mean, he has all the skill set, but he doesn't play at a big school. But if his combine stats are good, and if he shows the confidence that he has on the field, off the field as well, maybe a team in the 20s that needs a cornerback might take a chance on a guy like this. And if he falls into the second round, that's going to be a pretty good steal, if I say so myself. And I left one category off the board because everybody knows the combine is all about the quarterbacks, especially in this draft, folks. This is going to be one of those drafts where it's going to be, oh, well, this team likes this guy, and they have him ranked above this guy. Oh, but this team likes this guy. It's going to be who impresses teams more. Wentz and Goff are probably going to be the top two guys taken in this draft at the quarterback spot. And I think there's reasons to like them both. I think Wentz has more size, and his arm is probably stronger at this point. But Jared Goff is a smart player, is an accurate player, and is a guy that he doesn't have the great size. Carson Wentz is approximately 6'5", probably 230 or so pounds. Jared Goff, probably 6'4", probably 220 or so. And Wentz has the better arm. And from the standpoint of like his size and his arm strength, Wentz is better at this point. But Goff may be a smarter quarterback at this point. It's almost like, Ben Roethlisberger versus Peyton. Ben has the size. He's got the arm. He's got everything. Peyton, though, is the guy that can pick apart a defense. Can make the secondary players think, oh, where's this guy going to throw to now? That's how you can kind of look at it. And I'm not comparing these guys to those stars at all. But I'm just saying, in comparison to how they are, those are the kind of guys that they kind of play like. But right now, it's anyone's guess at which quarterback is going to come out of this combine and this process as the number one quarterback teams are going to look at. But the one guy that I want to talk about is Christian Hackenberg, the guy that I have loved since his freshman year at Penn State, and is a guy that's got the perfect size, he's got the perfect arm. The decision-making and his development and his accuracy is why teams question his ability to be a first-round pick. And he's probably not going to be a first-round pick. Unless some team trades up with the last 2 or 3 picks in the draft and want to take a risk on him. I think he has a chance to be a great quarterback. I'm not saying he is, but I think if you put him on the right team, I think if the Texans look at him as a second-round pick, he gets to go back with the coach that brought him into Penn State. They can work together. He would have a good offensive line, a wide receiver that he can rely on, and a defense that's probably top 10, maybe even top 5 in the league at this point. Hackenberg might need, a year to really grow into the guy that teams look at as like, this guy just has everything. This guy can be the number one quarterback in this draft. But he just needs a year to sit behind a guy So maybe Houston looks at a Sam Bradford, or maybe they look at an older quarterback. Maybe Peyton Manning goes there. And this isn't any rumor. This isn't anything I've heard. It's just, if you think about it, Peyton goes there. Hackenberg's taken in the second round. Peyton plays there for 1, maybe 2 years. Hackenberg can sit there and develop behind him and learn from one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And the second that Peyton Manning or whatever quarterback they have in front of him at this point leaves, Hackenberg can come right in and they wouldn't miss a beat. The Cardinals would be another great spot. Arians right now is considered one of the best quarterback coaches in the league. He's one of the best head coaches in the league as well, too. He's helped Big Ben. He's helped Luck. Palmer had a MVP type of year. And Palmer is he's in that stage of his career at this point where they're going to need a guy to take the reins from him once he's done. Hackenberg might be that guy, because that's not really a team that has a lot of big needs. So maybe with that 27, 28 pick, whatever pick that they have, maybe they look at him and say, oh, this is a guy that we can work with. Palmer can teach him. Arians can teach him. He's going to have some great weapons around him, and they can grow together. That would be those two teams to me would be the top two teams that I would look at in terms of who he should go to. Now, if he goes to a team like the Browns, maybe he doesn't have the best luck. Because I think he's a quarterback. He's sort of like RG3 in a sense. And not by skill set, because those are two totally different guys. But I think Hackenberg is one of those guys that I think he needs a lot of help around him. He's not going to be able to go out there and win it all by himself. And that showed this year. Penn State, he had a couple good games here and there. He made some really good throws here and there. But he didn't consistently show the skill set or the potential that he probably showed his freshman year. And the best games that he had were when Saquon Barkley was in running the ball, when the offensive line could help him, and when the wideouts were making plays for him. And when the defense was shutting down the opposing team. So if he has a team around him and he gets time, the guy can be a pretty good quarterback. He's not going to be a first-round pick unless a team takes a risk on him. But that's going to be a guy that this combine, he's going to show what he can do. And he's going to throw the ball 50, 60 plus yards. He's going to make he's probably going to make every throw. But the interview process, they're going to go through and say, if this play goes on, how you address it. If you're going up against this scheme, where do you go to first? What's your first read? And I'm not saying that's what they're going to ask him, because I've never done this. I'm only 22, so I don't know how they interview college players. But I would assume they pick his brain and go through different scenarios to see how he thinks. So that is the combine. Those are some guys that I'm going to look at. It's going to be really fun. Some folks may think it's boring to watch. I don't. I think the off season is great. I think it's just fun to see how teams work. How teams maybe adjust to the things that they need to look at in terms of who they should sign, who they should draft. And the combine is going to get us started here, and then free agency is going to come right up after that. And that's the thing. Everything is going to happen in the next 2 or 3 months. This isn't spread out. So, combine, free agency, draft. So, it's going to be interesting to see who shines in the combine this year. Now, before I get to some NFL stuff, as I do on this show most of the time, I'm going to go over a little bit of Flyers points, because something is really starting to bug me. And as I usually do on my show, I tend to rant and get mad about things. I'm going to try to compose myself here. I'm not going to try to get mad, but if I do, I'm sorry for anybody that doesn't like me getting mad. But what annoys me about this year is, and it's a good thing to actually be mad about. And it's not anything that's bad in terms of, well, they're not playing well, Or, this guy's just not really playing up to what we thought he was going to be. But what makes me mad is the idea that certain folks that try their best in sports at least don't get recognized as much as they should. And Shayne Gostisbehere right now is maybe having the best rookie season that a Flyers defenseman has had in a long time. Besides their captain, Claude Giroux, right now, Gostisbehere is their best guy. Now, yes, Simmons is there. They got other guys. I understand that. I'm not denying that. But Gostisbehere is putting up some impact and is impacting this team right now that we have not seen from a young defenseman on this team in a long, long time. I mean, personally, I've never seen a rookie defenseman on this team play like this. Now, you might have to go back a couple years to really pick one out and say, well, this guy's been like that before, Joe. I don't know what you're talking about. And maybe so. That might be the case. But right now, the guy is unreal. I mean, this year, and the crazy thing about it is he hasn't really played as many games as some other young stars are. So in 41 games played, he's put up 12 goals and 22 assists, which goes out to 34 points. And he's had 4 game-winning goals. 34 points and 4 game-winning goals for a defenseman. A defenseman, folks. And this was not a kid that was a top 5 pick, supposed to be a star day one. He was not that at all. And the reason what gets me mad is the idea that maybe he will not win Rookie of the Year. Now, I am not saying that no other player besides him is deserving of that. Because there are 2 players right now that are putting up great stats that easily could deserve it as well. And that is Dylan Larkin from the Red Wings, and I'm sorry if I'm going to get this guy's name wrong, but Artemi Panarin from the Blackhawks. 2 great young guys. Larkin, I believe, was an all-star this year. And these 2 guys have been putting up great stats. Again, what they have done for their teams has been great. Larkin's put up 39 points, while Panarin, I believe, is leading all rookies in scoring with 57 points and 22 goals. 57 points for a young guy like that is pretty good. And these 2 guys are deserving of it. If either one of those guys win over Ghost, I can understand why. But I'm going to make my argument as to why the Ghost, as we fans and everybody else calls him, is there's going to be reasons why he doesn't win it and reasons why he does win it. Now, the reason why to me he's not going to win it is because I feel like some folks may just look at stats. Oh, well, he didn't score as many points. He didn't score as many points as these other couple guys did. He shouldn't win it. Oh, I guess being an impactful guy on a team only amounts to how many points you put up. And maybe that's not how they look at it. But that should not be the sole reason why a guy wins Rookie of the Year or any award. To me, Rookie of the Year, much like other ones, now there are awards for whoever puts up the most points and stuff like that, but to me, the Rookie of the Year award should go out to the rookie who has the most impact on his team. And to me, Gostisbehere has to be number 1 on that list. And here's why. Larkin is a great young player right now. But when I think of the Red Wings, Pavel Datsyuk is easily on my mind before he is. Now, while that may be the case, Larkin is one of their best young players right now. But if Larkin is hurt, a guy like Datsyuk can replace what he does in some form. Panarin is the same way. He's a great young guy right now. He's putting up great stats. He's going to have a great, next 5 or 10 years in this league. But when I think of that team, he's not the first guy that comes to mind. Of course, Kane and Taves would probably be the two guys that everybody would think of before him. But not even that. If Panarin is hurt or doesn't play in a game, guys like Kane and Taves can make up for what he does. They're not going to fall apart if those two guys aren't in their games. The Red Wings, maybe more so than the Blackhawks, because the Blackhawks may have more depth. But Gostisbehere is arguably the best defenseman on the Flyers right now. And there's probably no defenseman currently on this team that can replace what he does. When Panarin is out, a lot of fans and people might think, well, that's a big loss. But you also got to think, well, we have Kane and Taves still, and we have other young guys that can make plays for us, and our defense is good still, and our goalie's still here, so we definitely have a chance to win still. When Gostisbehere is not in the game, that's a huge loss. And that is why I think he should win Rookie of the Year. It is, out of those three, Gostisbehere is probably the hardest to replace right now. Now, there may be some young guys down in this OHL or the QMJHL, wherever they're playing, that will eventually come up and might have more, and might be a better defenseman than he is right now. But right now on this team, I don't think any defenseman can replace what he does on this team. And that's why I think he needs to win Rookie of the Year. Now, if he does not win Rookie of the Year, I understand. Maybe the other guys, maybe it is the points, or maybe it's that they've done it for longer. But you also got to think, Gostisbehere's played lesser games, and he's put up these stats. It's not like he put up 34 points in 80 games. He's played 40 or 41 games. So you got to equate that too. So that's my little rant. I'm done for that right now. I had to get that out because it just aggravates me that you know, and I understand that a lot of people are going to say, well, he is going to be in it, Joe. He's going to be in the top 3 or 4. And he should be. But if he doesn't even get, you know, if he's not even thought about being a top 3 to win that, there's something wrong then. Because he's arguably the best rookie right now. But if he doesn't win, I'm understanding. So enough of me ranting. Let's get on to some NFL, shall we? Going with the AFC East, I'm going to start with the Miami Dolphins. Yes, the Miami Dolphins, who went through two head coaches this year and have hired their new head coach in Adam Gase, a guy who has made the Bears offense look pretty good, and Jay Cutler, some may say, had a rejuvenated year. I know, shocking, because a lot of people didn't think he could do it, and he did. And right now, he's a great fit for this team. He brought in Vance Joseph as the defensive coordinator of the team. Another great hire. So I think this team is going to be very good for the next 4 or 5 years, however long they're going to be the coaching staff there. But with the team that only has $8 or $9 million, let's just say less than $10 million in cap space, and a couple guys that they need to re-sign, they don't have a lot of room, folks. They don't have a lot of room at all. And they have a lot of needs, especially on the defensive side. Now, they have some needs on the offensive side. They could use a guard. Their tackles are set with Juwan James and Brandon Albert at this point. Mike Pouncey could slide into guard if they need him to, but I think he should go back to center, which he's played best. And they could address the guard spot. Running back is a big need if Lamar Miller does not return. A guy that they should sign is a young guy that's put up great stats for him. But they're going to need help on the defensive side with defensive end, linebacker, cornerback, safety. Anywhere on the defensive side at this point is a need. And they have a couple guys that they need to re-sign. Now, it's not a huge list. They don't need to re-sign 12 or 15 guys. It's, 3 or 4 guys, but they're big-name guys. Miller is probably the best running back at this point. They drafted Jai last year, is a good young running back that I really like. Is a guy that has a lot of strength, can be a third down back. I don't know if he can start every single game, every single down for you. Miller is a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, got good speed, and is young still. Is probably going to get a good deal coming up here, though. I don't know if Miami has the cap space to make it work. Olivier Vernon is another guy. If you've been listening to my shows the past couple weeks, this is a guy that I've talked to at length about.
I really like him. He plays end outside linebacker, can get you 10 sacks. And it's probably going to get a big contract this year. Miami may have to settle for one or the other. They probably won't be able to re-sign both. And they got a couple other guys, Rashard Matthews, who's been a pretty reliable receiver for him. A guy that's not going to have to demand a big deal. He's a guy that's probably going to get somewhere probably $4 to $5 million per year. Can be a slot guy, can play on the outside, can play anywhere. But I think with Jarvis Landry and Devontae Parker coming back, who's going to be a great receiver for Ryan Tannehill to throw the ball to, Rashard Matthews may not have to be re-signed. Louis Delmas, Derek Shelby, and Quentin Coples are the other remaining guys I think they should at least look to re-sign. Guys that aren't going to have great impact, but are great depth guys that can make plays for you if you need them to. So some free agents that they can look at. Now, if they can restructure either Cameron Wake or Sue's deals, because Sue, the deal that they signed him to last year, unreal. Not saying he's not worth it, but they may need to see if they can they need to see if they can do something with it if they hope to re-sign some of these guys. And I think Sue might be up for it if he knows that it's for the betterment of the team. But if Vernon does not return, Andre Branch is a guy that I would look at, a guy that plays for the Jaguars. He hasn't had any, huge years. Hasn't put up 12, 13 sacks. He's kind of an unknown guy, but makes a lot of good plays, got really good size, and will immediately start on that line if they need him to. And isn't, again, this is what I've been stressing for the last 2 weeks or so. This is another guy that is not going to demand a big contract. You can get him at $4 or $5 or $6 million per year, and he will work for the money that he has paid. It's not going to be like, well, we overpaid for him. No, you give him an okay deal. He's going to show why you should pay him what he deserves at this point. If you don't look at him, Daquan Bowers is another guy, a guy that came out of Clemson 4 or 5 years back, a guy that I really liked, led the nation, I believe, in sacks 1 year. He got hurt, fell to, I think, the second round or so. This is a guy that you can sign on 1 or 2 year, $1 million or so per year. He's not going to put up any great stats right now, but he's a guy that still probably has that potential to make some okay plays for you. And he can be a great depth guy if a guy gets hurt. Linebacker, they could use help at all the linebacker spots. They got Koamisi, who could play inside linebacker, outside linebacker. They got a couple other guys, Jelani Jenkins, who's a good young guy that puts up some pretty good plays. But they're going to need a guy that has done it, a guy that is an experienced linebacker. And there's not really a lot of stars out there. Rolando McClain is a guy that they could look at, was seen out of the draft as a star. Didn't really work for Oakland. Dallas picked him up, made a lot of good plays. Maybe you could slot him in there at one of those linebacker spots. Maybe he could play pretty good for him. Zach Brown from the Titans, not the band, the guy who plays for a team. They could get him on a pretty good deal. Again, an underrated guy that's put up some pretty decent plays, got some good size, got good speed. Maybe they could look at a guy like him, and he's not going to demand a big contract. Cornerback, they could look at Tracy Porter, who played for the Bears last year, is a guy that they could look at as well. They got Brent Grimes, didn't really have the best of years. Porter played last year with the Bears. Also, who was the coach there? Adam Gase. Maybe they can work something there because they know each other from last year, and maybe he can be a guy that can play next to Grimes next year on a 2 or 3 year deal. And at running back, if Lamar Miller does not come back, Matt Forte could easily go to that team. He knows Adam Gase's scheme. He knows how to play it. He knows what he needs to do. A versatile back. Yes, he hit that 30-year-old mark, I believe. I think it's 30 or 31. That every running back, if they hit that mark, they're not that good no more. This guy could play for easily 5 more years. He's in great shape. If you watch him last year, he still made a lot of great plays. A reliable back, can catch the ball, got good speed, good size, can block. So if they want an experienced running back, if Ajayi is a guy that they look at to be the future of the running backs, maybe Matt Forte can help groom him. Now, with the 8th pick in the draft, I think they got to look at linebacker. I think you got Miles Jack, a guy that's a great linebacker from UCLA. got okay size, but has great speed, great strength, can drop back, cover tight ends, receivers, can, thump guys at the line, can stop a back. He can do everything well. He doesn't have that great size like some other guys in this draft might, but he's got everything else. He has every tool that can be used to be a top linebacker, and maybe the Dolphins can get him at the 8th spot. If not, they can look at Vernon Hargreaves, again, one of the cornerbacks I spoke of earlier. Brent Grimes is getting, he's not that young. They're going to need help on the other side, so maybe Hargreaves is a guy that the Dolphins look at the 8th spot. Ronnie Stanley is another guy. Now, I said before that Albert and Juwan James at the tackle spot is fine with them. Maybe, and I'm just throwing this out there, maybe you can slide a Juwan James into guard. You could put Ronnie Stanley out at right tackle. If Brandon Albert can't play anymore, maybe you could slot him at left tackle. He's a guy that can easily be a good left tackle for 7, 8, 9 years, and you can play him day one. He's not going to have to sit behind a guy and see how to play the tackle spot. He can come in day one and stop anybody at this point. So moving on from that team, we are next at the Bills. Now, if the Dolphins, if you think they didn't have a lot of cap space, the Bills right now are working with approximately $1 million. Yes, $1 million or so, give or take some, in cap space. Now, Mario Williams may have to restructure his contract. He's getting paid a lot of money at this point. His cap hit is pretty big. If they can rework his deal, that might be able to free up some cap space because they have a couple guys that they need to sign. And they need help at the tackle spot. They need help at the wide receiver spot. They could use help at the defensive end spot if Mario Williams didn't restructure his deal and they cut him or trade him for some reason. But they have a couple guys that they need to re-sign, especially on the offensive line. With Cordy Glenn and Richie Incognito. Cordy Glenn, one of the best young left tackles in the league right now. I don't see how the Bills would let him walk unless they really can't restructure somebody's deal or cut somebody or trade somebody to free up some cap space because he's going to get a big deal regardless of where he goes. Richie Incognito, again, a great guard. Of course, he's bounced around teams. Maybe some things he did in the locker rooms or off the field maybe people didn't like. But regardless of what he's done, the guy is still a great guard. And they're going to be able to get him on a good deal. And he's played well wherever he's gone. And, of course, they can look at a couple other guys. Bakari Rambo, a safety for their team. And Chris Hogan, a underrated wide receiver, a guy that can start if you need him to, can catch the ball fairly well. He's not going to be a star, but he's a reliable receiver with some pretty good hands. So look at some free agents, of course. At wide receiver, hey, maybe they look down at their AFC East rival and look at Rashard Matthews. They can get him on a good deal. Sammy Watkins, of course, is going to be their number one guy. Tyrod Taylor's had a pretty good year with him. You could slot him in as a slot receiver or on the outside opposite, and he can make some plays. If not, you can look at Mohamed Sanu, who may not return to the Bengals. And if not, Hakeem Nicks might be a guy to look at. He hasn't had really any great years over the last 2 or 3 years, but still probably has some good skills. You can get him at a good deal, a fairly cheap deal, and can still probably make a couple plays for you. At defensive end, I would look at Quentin Coples, who the Dolphins may not re-sign. If they don't, he played for Rex Ryan with the Jets. Probably had his best part of his career so far there. He can immediately play, and he would know how Rex Ryan's scheme works. So look at the draft with the 19th pick. They're probably going to I would look at offensive line. Taylor Decker and Jack Conklin are probably two guys that you can look at. Decker can slide right to the right tackle spot if you re-sign Glenn. If not, he can play the left tackle as well. Conklin the same way. And those are two tackles that are going to interchange. Some guys might like Decker over Conklin or vice versa at this point. If you don't look at that, maybe you look at Noah Spence. Again, one of the guys I spoke of earlier about the combine, a guy that can go anywhere from 10 to 29, depending on if his off-the-field stuff is that important to some teams, but he definitely has the skill set that can work. They have a guy like Jerry Hughes who plays on the line that Noah Spence kind of reminds me of somewhat in terms of the size. The next team, the New York Jets, a surprising team that almost could have made a playoff run, but due to the schedule, somehow they didn't make a playoffs. But they had a very good year. And with around $22 million in cap space, they don't have a lot of needs. Honestly, they don't have a lot of needs. They have a lot of guys they should re-sign, but they really don't have a lot of needs. Outside linebacker and tight end to me are the two biggest needs. But they have a lot of guys that they need to re-sign. Muhammad Wilkerson is one of the guys that they might tag, they might sign long-term. They really don't need him, though. Sheldon Richardson is still there. They drafted Leonard Williams last year with the 6th overall pick, if I'm not mistaken. A guy that can easily start in his spot. They don't really need to re-sign him, but if they do, it's definitely going to make an improvement on the team. Ryan Fitzpatrick, a guy that everywhere he's gone, he's kind of had a good year. Started with the Bills, played really good there. Then the Texans signed him, was kind of off and on. Now the Jets got him, had a great year. They're probably going to look to sign him long term. If not, they're going to look somewhere else to help out because right now Geno Smith isn't looking like the guy. They do have Bryce Petty, I believe, from last year's draft, so maybe he's the guy. But if not, Ryan Fitzpatrick looks like he should be signed long term. Chris Ivory, to me, should be the number one guy besides Ryan Fitzpatrick that they should look to re-sign. A running back that does not get as much fame or recognition as he should. Got great strength, got some good speed, can carry the ball 25, 30 times a game. You should definitely look to re-sign him because if they don't, some other team is going to scoop him up and he's going to be a great running back wherever he goes. Damon Harrison, their nose tackle. Again, this is a spot that they really should look to re-sign. This guy is probably along that defensive line, is probably the unknown guy, but puts up great stats, got great size, and could be a starting nose tackle wherever he goes. Antonio Cromartie was let go. Maybe they look to re-sign him. Revis is still there. They still got Buster Skrine, or Skrine, however you say his name. They also got D. Milner from a few years back. Hasn't really panned out to be a star yet, but maybe this year he can do it. If not, you could look at Calvin Pace as an outside linebacker that they could look to re-sign. Demario Davis, their inside linebacker. They already got David Harris there, so maybe Demario Davis isn't their number one need. And Bilal Powell, the backup to Chris Ivory for majority of this year. A guy that can be an underrated back that doesn't need to start, but he can easily come in and make very good plays where he can catch the ball, can block, got some pretty good speed. So those are some free agents that they should look to re-sign. Now some free agents that they should look at. In the outside linebacker spot, see, here's the big thing. Alden Smith is probably the number one issue. The number one, see, this is the guy that's got great skill. But the problem is his off-the-field stuff may scare some fans. And what makes me mad is people are not going to take a chance on him. And I think he's still got a lot of good years left in him. Now, if his off-the-field stuff continues to, take away from his play, then yeah, you may not want to re-sign him. But I think with this team, he could be a great outside linebacker. They got Lorenzo Maldine last year's draft. He's a good young guy. He's not a star yet, but he makes some pretty good plays. But I think Alden Smith could be a guy that they could look at. If not him, Courtney Upshaw and Nick Perry are two guys. Again, these are underrated guys that they don't need to throw a $50, $60 million deal at that can make plays. Kobe Fleener from the Colts is a tight end they should definitely look to re-sign. I was going to say Dwayne Allen in the spot, but maybe the Colts, it depends on who the Colts re-sign. So I'll kind of change it here, and I'll say whoever the Colts don't re-sign, if they re-sign both, then they need to look somewhere else. But if they don't re-sign one of those tight ends, whoever they don't sign, the Jets should look at. Jace Amaro is one of the young tight ends. Hasn't really been a star yet. I think can still be a good tight end. But they should look at a guy that has done it in the league more often. Kobe Fleener should definitely be a guy that they could look at. Now, with the 20th pick in the draft, this is where they can kind of go anywhere on the defense or offensive side of the ball, and it would kind of be a good pick. Except for wide receiver, because I think they're set there. Offensive line they might look at, but I think Leonard Floyd from Georgia, their outside linebacker, would be a perfect pick here. A guy that plays outside linebacker, slid into inside linebacker for a few plays, but a guy that if he gains a little bit more mass and gets a little bit more strength, the guy's going to be a star because he's got great speed. Moves along the edge very, very well, can blitz very well, can stop the run well. He's just an overall good linebacker. If not, Noah Spence. Again, a guy that he might fall. The Jets might want to look at him. And if not them two, A'Shawn Robinson and Jaron Reed from Alabama could be two guys that they look at if Damon Harrison doesn't re-sign. And here's a sleeper for you. What if Chris Ivory does not re-sign? Maybe they don't have the cap to re-sign him. Maybe you can look at Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe. He's the best back in this draft. Maybe with the 20th pick, if he falls, if there's really nobody on the defensive side that they really fall in love with, maybe that's a running back that they could look at. And if not him, there's some other good running backs in this class, including Alex Collins, I believe, that are going to be some really good backs. So regardless if they don't take Ezekiel Elliott, there's still some backs that they could look at. Now with the last team, everybody's favorite team to hate on, not really hate on, but people seem to find a reason not to like them. The New England Patriots. Yes. This is a team that almost made another Super Bowl run, but fell short. They have around $6 to $7 million in cap space. They have a few needs. Most of them are on the defensive side, including defensive tackle, linebacker, cornerback, but not huge needs. They're not like, oh, they need to get, this spot is a glaring need. If they don't fill this need, they're not going to be good. No. They're just needs that they could use help on. Some guys that they should re-sign, Ryan Wendell, one of their offensive linemen, they should definitely look to re-sign. He's being a good interior lineman for him. And the second guy they should definitely probably re-sign is LeGarrette Blount, a running back that has been a good back for him over the last 2 or 3 years, has great power, is a great goal line back. If you need that 3rd and 1, he can convert it. I think Dion Lewis can be that underrated star that when he was playing, he was making a lot of good plays. So I think if you get those two guys going, they really don't need a star running back, but maybe they do look at a star running back coming up here. So some free agents that they should look at. Matt Forte. If Lewis or Blunt aren't the guys, Matt Forte is a guy that maybe he wants to make one final run. They win a Super Bowl. Maybe the Patriots are that team. Now, defensive line, they got some good ends. They got Dominique Easley on the inside, who I really like, but they could use help on the other side. So maybe Nick Fairley or Damon Harrison from the Jets, who knows the AFC East. Maybe they look at those guys. Demario Davis, also again from the Jets. The Patriots know him enough, and he knows them, so maybe they can work something out there. And at the cornerback spot, Malcolm Butler seems to be pretty good, but I think they could definitely use help on that cornerback spot. So maybe Adam Jones or Tracy Porter from the Bears. Again, veteran guys that have been in the league for a long time that can help out the young guys. Now, unfortunately, they don't have the pick because of the Deflategate stuff, but that's what I got for you guys for the AFCs today. I want to thank everybody for listening in. Again, follow me on Twitter at J_Tusio, Tusio, if you don't know how to spell it. I want to thank everybody for listening in. Everybody enjoy their break. Listen to 98.5 WNUW LP Aston.